je me mets là, ça marche aussi.
Good morning, everyone. There we are in the last few hours remaining for the challenge Design for Green. This morning, this is the last talk, about 25 minutes, and we are very pleased to welcome Bruno THOMAS. So Bruno, I will give you the speech. We've got some students arriving, okay. Bruno, it's all yours. Reminder, 25 minutes, and then we will come back for a few questions, 2 or 3. Okay. You can ask your question on Twitter, I remind you. Okay? Thank you. Bruno, it's all yours in 30 seconds.
So hello, I'm Bruno THOMAS, and I'm happy to be here today to talk about lean and green. I am a developer for 20 years now, and I'm a lean practitioner for about 10 years. And first of all, I would like to apologize for my slow English because it's not my native language, so please be patient, and thank you for that. Do you know what is the first energy-consuming country in the world? Some have ideas? No, the first is China. Then it's USA. The third is Russia. Then India, and the fifth is Japan. But if we aggregate the total electricity consumption of the whole internet and IT devices, it would rank the 6th among all countries. And I find it interesting because as IT users, we often think that we talk about cloud computing, we talk about serverless architecture, we talk about a virtual server. And all this stuff seems very abstract and non-existent, in fact. But we all know here that, in fact, it's a lot of data centers with thousands and thousands servers inside, and all the servers are really ineffective, in fact. So that's why I found this quote interesting, and I wanted to share it with you. And so let's see an overview of the plan of the project of this session. First, I'm going to talk about the project context, why I'm here to talk to you about what I did just 1.5 years before. Second, the situation I was facing after 3 months of software developing. Third, the problem we had with the website green efficiency. And fourth, the Kaizen. It's the improvement. Kaizen means improvement in Japanese. The improvement we made on the webmail integration. And fifth, some results and conclusion. So the context was this. I believe that most of the time a company's birth comes from a meeting among people and the market opportunity. And that was the case here also. because it was a meeting between two friends of mine that are lawyers and I, developer, and they cannot find a case tool that fits their needs. And each time we were seeing each other, they asked me if we could build one. So I said yes, but it's time consuming, and we must find a context for that. And second, they wanted to build it with a corporate social responsibility. So at the time, it was 2 years ago, I didn't know what it was meaning. So I began to look at what it was about. So the context was this one. They was facing two problems. First, the mail sorting was time consuming, for they have a lot of mails, and their case software were too complex. So the first thing I did was to ask them, but do you think there is a market for that? So I began to make problem interviews. I don't know if you know Lean Startup. And so I went to see lawyers, and I asked them two questions. Do you have a case application? And are you satisfied with your mail sorting? And less than half of them had a case application, and they were facing problem of managing their information, the backup of their information, because they were just saving their files on their hard drives, and the sharing of this information when they were remote from their desk, and the data sovereignty for those who were using Google or other tools that are hosted in USA. The second thing was it necessary to make GreenIT on this project? So I began to look for figures about the carbon footprint of the internet, for example, and the IT infrastructures. And I found these figures of Boston Consulting Group that was stating that 1.9% of the carbon footprint, of the overall carbon footprint, is due to the IT infrastructures. It's not a lot, but if you compare with planes traffic, it's the same. It's the same as plane traffic, so it's huge. And the second thing is it's going to increase drastically, because in 2020 it's going to be 2.3%. And the other thing I found was the increase of the number of IoT devices that was 15 billion in 2014, and that's are going to be 50 billion in 2020. So I found that yes, it was interesting to go in this green way. So we decided to build a case tool, and we defined what we called 4S vision, with application that should be simple, sustainable, secure, and social. So as I didn't know anything about CSR in software development and GreenIT, I looked at what the literature says, and I found only two books. The one of Scott Gell, that is a book mainly for developers, but because a great part is about responsible design, but it's also about how to make a website durable and available for all kinds of devices. The second one is the one of Frédéric Bordage in French, and this 115 good practices that are proposed to optimize the website. So when I read these books, and I had a lot of income, and I felt a bit like this strange fisherman here, with all my problems, jumping around like this fish. And the question I asked myself was, which problem to tackle first, what will be the benefit for the users, because the most important thing is the user. And third, how to measure carbon footprint improvements, because in lean management, you must measure a gap between an actual situation and a target situation to have a problem. It's just a worry. So I had to measure the carbon footprint of the website, and I didn't know how to do it. And I found ecoindex.fr that is run by the Frédéric Bordage teams. And you enter, just submit an URL, and then it gives you a rank between A and F. It's like when you're buying a fridge or an apartment. And it's based on 3 axes. The first axis is the number of DOM elements in the HTML, and it's related to the client usage. And why it is weighted 3? Because on average on the internet there are 200 clients for one server. So there are a bunch of levels to resolve the client usage. So that's why this axis is the first one with a weight of 3. Then the second axis is the number of HTTP requests, and it's related to the server usage, and it's weighted 2. And third, there is the page size, and it's related to the network usage, and it's only 1, because in the network area there are a lot of hardware devices that are really optimized, and so it's less, the impact is less. So this is the detail of how the eco index is processed, but I'm going to pass it because I don't know if we have enough time. So the goal here was that our homepage was B, and we wanted to rank A on ecoindex.fr. So we went to the Go and See. In lean management, we call this to go on the Gemba. The Gemba is the place where the things happens. So when you are building something in plants, you are going on the plant to see the workers and how it's going on. So here our Gemba is the code. So we went to see the code, and we found the first thing that was interesting was this. It is the footer, and my colleagues, lawyers, just told me, but in fact we don't need any footer. So if you want, we could remove it. So that was the first thing. Then we went to see the header, and what we saw here that there were two CSS style sheets that were not minified, and there were 5 JavaScript libraries, and each library is an HTTP request. And there was this inline script at the top of each page, because it was the layer here. And so this inline JavaScript was neither optimized, neither cached, neither minimized. So back to the situation. So this was the carbon footprint part, and the second thing was the integration of the email. So at the version 0.3, we observed that there was a big increase of the number of HTTP requests. It was because the most simple thing that I found to implement this was to make an HTTP polling. So every 30 seconds, I was issuing a request on the server saying, do you have a new email? Do you have a new email? Do you have a new email? And the second thing was the mail latency, because I was doing the polling on the HTTP side, but there was also the backend that was issuing IMAP requests on the IMAP servers. And so it was a latency of 30 seconds. That is not very important, but when you have these small latencies, sometimes it can be painful for the users. So the goal here was either to remove the polling request and to remove the fetch latency. So what I explained, that it was how I explained what was pulling to my colleague lawyers that were not computer science engineers. It's like sending an elevator to each floor all the time to see if someone is there. So what we wanted here was to go event based for the mail checking. So that's why I call this Kaizen, that is, as I told you before, improvement. Because in Lean, you don't have any problem when you are at the standard. And the standard here was the most simple thing that could possibly work. And it was okay. We had integrated, and it was functional. We had integrated mail. We could check the mail on the website. But here we wanted to improve the efficiency of the mail integration. So we made a list of the all polling alternatives. I won't explain each of them because it's going to be too long. But the first thing we did is to cancel some of these solutions that were not acceptable for us. Then we looked for each solution among 4 axes. The first axis was the latency and bandwidth efficiency. Then the browser support, because we wanted to be able to serve a big variety of technical clients. The implementing costs estimates and the binary data supports, because we wanted to be able to download the mail attachments. So what we saw here is that was the most simple thing was the WebSockets. So we decided to make a proof of concept with WebSockets. So if we come back to our canvas, the root cause analysis was two-sided. First, there was the main integration with the pooling, the web map pooling and the EMAP fetcher pooling. And the second side was the lack of front-end build. So the corrective actions we took first was to remove the page footer. And what was interesting here, that it was a failure because the result was only 8% less in the number of DOM elements, and it was 1% less for the average page size. So it was not that much. The second thing was to pack libraries with Webpack, and it was 38% less. So that was a good point. Then extract into JS file and minify. It was less 20%. The user WebSocket was we divided the bandwidth by 10. And when we minified the CSS, it was 38% less. So after we can check if we've been good. And yes, it was a bit disappointing because what we made here is we checked the bandwidth use and the number of HTTP requests at each release for an average user. So we injected some traffic with JMeter, and we were measuring the bandwidth use and the number of HTTP requests. And here the blue line is the number of requests, and the green line is the bandwidth. And the dotted lines is what it would have been if we wouldn't have made the improvements. So the first thing is the home page now is A. There is no mail latency, but the old browsers that don't support WebSockets can have the email notification, so we must think of a fallback for it. And if we made the mean of the eco index, it's only 20% less in the eco index. That is not that much, because in lean management, when you are working on a problem, it's usual to have much more impressive results. So what we did in our process, what we integrated, we abandoned the page footer. We integrated the JavaScript build to our backend build. We made the mail checking fully event-based with WebSocket and the use of the IMAP idle command. Then we shared the information that we found. That we published 2 articles on the collaborative blog called barvert.fr. And then we made session in conferences and like this one. Then, a small conclusion. What I learned on this experiment is that GreenIT is congruent with Lean, because both of them are iterative, and I think the most important thing is the learning we can make with these methods. Second, it maximizes the use of resources, because you deliver your service, but you have less server use, less bandwidth use, for example. And then the second conclusion is that when you are a software craftsman, you are doing GreenIT, because when I discussed about these problems with software craftsmen, say, yes, of course you are minimizing your CSS and JavaScript, but the fact that you are interested to these points with the GreenIT look, then it's another way to be sure to make things done. But the GreenIT, when you are GreenIT, you are not necessarily software craftsman. And third, the conclusion, I think that GreenIT is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to improve the user experience, because when the site is optimized, then the browsing is fluid and is more easy. It's an opportunity to lower operational cost, because you pay less on the host side. And it's an opportunity also to sell optimization on the stakeholders of the project, like management or other stakeholders. And it's also an opportunity to market your product, because ecology is positive. So for users, it could be an argument to buy your product. And as it is a constrained environment and you must deliver the same service, it's a push toward innovation, because you must find innovative solutions to do better with the same service. Then it's the full A3. So what we can see here is it's called an A3 in lean management, and it's a tool for problem solving. It's a process to become an expert in a problem. And I'd like to thank you for your attention, and thank also Régis Medina that gave me the idea of this talk.
All right. Thank you, Bruno. Right on time. Well done. Thank you so much, Bruno. Thank you so much, especially for the focus on Eco Index, because as you know, participants are using this platform for the challenge. So I might ask you a simple question. This year you are part of the jury for the challenge. what will be the best tips, advice you will give to the participants? They've got less than 6 hours to work on the subject. What will be your best advice?
What I find interesting is the asynchronous programming. So this is a thing that I used for the IMAP checking with the idle. So I developed an IMAP asynchronous library in Python, and I find it interesting because when you are programming asynchronous with the EPOL layer, KQ for BSD and iOS. Then the computer is idling when there is no information on the input output. So I found this rather elegant solution to be effective when you have I/O bound problems. The second thing is an article about the CNRS that I found interesting. They stated that there was 100 more effective languages that are the languages that are compiled. So Java and C++ languages are 100 more effective on the server consumption than the interpreted languages like Python and Node.js and other stuffs.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other question, guys? No, all good. All right. Thank you again, Bruno, for the talk.
Thank you.
Thank you to all participants. You've got less than 6 hours now. We will be back at 5:30 for the closing ceremony. The challenge ends at 4 p.m. Okay. Thank you, everyone, and we will be back for the closing ceremony. Good luck. Bye bye.
See you later.
Ça.